The Eagles made a couple roster moves with one familiar face getting signed, and Philly added another running back. So is there a concern for Rashaad Penny's outlook? And how serious is Quez Watkins' injury? Plus, how does Sean Desai plan to use Haason Reddick differently against the Bucs? But first, let's run it. Hey guys, alright, we've got some kind of news, if you want to call it that, since everyone's talking about it. With Jason Kelce going on WIP and confirming reports that his brother Travis Kelce is dating pop star Taylor Swift. And that's about all I'm going to say on that. It's not like I have any bad blood or anything. I just don't think this love story is going to work out. But look what you made me do, social media. At least, hopefully, if Taylor Swift's a real Eagles fan, she'll string Travis along until the playoffs and dump him in heartbreaking fashion, which ruins his psyche and causes Kansas City to blow up from the inside.
You cheated on me? When I specifically asked you not to?
Alright, seriously, there's your pop culture for the day, when really the only Kelce-Swift combo I care about is Jason Kelce and DeAndre Swift, which Jason doesn't have any time for distractions, especially considering the way the Eagles have played the first 2 weeks.
Well, we're 2-0, which is good. But we're 2-0, and we know that we could very easily be 1-1, and we have not played football the way we want to play football yet. So the temperature of the team is a little bit on edge, and I think everybody, feels that we need to play better, and if we want to live up to the expectations that we think that we are capable of playing like, we need to make improvements, and we need to perform better.
Good, that's the mentality you have to have, and Kelce also said the team's continually looking for ways to improve, which is why I have one answer for Alexis Chasen's who should be the Eagles' RB1 question. It's Agent Zero without a doubt, or at least it should be. Yes, I know, Nick Sirianni said earlier in the week that it'll be a revolving door, but you're telling me we've got last week's NFC Offensive Player of the Week, and we're gonna revert back to a couple handoffs and catches? Look, if Philly's legit trying to get better, Swift needs to be out there as much as possible, and I know I've said that on multiple occasions, but then you can sprinkle in Gainwell a little bit, along with a little Rashaad Penny as well. Except as much as I'd like to see what Penny has left, he could be getting shortchanged, since the Eagles announced they've signed running back Brian Covey to the practice squad after working him out on Tuesday. And in case you're not familiar with Covey, he's a 25-year-old, 6-foot-tall, 210-pound back out of Toledo, who spent time on both the Minnesota Vikings and Seattle Seahawks practice squads the past 2 seasons, but hasn't been able to stick, which kind of has me wondering, why in the world are we signing another running back? Perhaps, as several other members of the media have suggested, the Birds are looking for potential depth and not completely sold on Penny. Alright, maybe, and I'll be the first to admit if something like that happens, that I was dead wrong on Penny. With the reports back in July saying the shifty tank was in jeopardy of getting cut. Plus, it's no secret that the Eagles aren't exactly in love with the ball carrier, keeping him as inactive in the opener versus the Pats, and then giving him a grand total of 4 touches in the Minnesota game last week. Granted, he didn't do much with those touches. Yet, even with Kenny G out injured, Boston was clearly the backup runner behind Swift. However, on the flip side, it's not like they're signing Covey to the active roster, so it feels like if the Birds were done with Penny, they would have kept Trey Sermon instead, which is why personally I'm wondering if the concussion to Boston is worse, or if Kenny G may not be able to give it a go against the Bucs, where this could be a short-term rental of sorts. Either way, it's a little curious, and although I think the vast majority of us want Swift as RB1, are you at least a little surprised by the lack of usage for Penny? Or maybe I'm alone in that thinking. The other surprise is that wide receiver Britain Covey was signed to the active roster, meaning he'll again most likely be your punt returner.
I've made a huge mistake.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly feels that way. Thankfully, Covey didn't cost the Birds with his fumble last week, but there's just very little explosiveness with him back there. Now, technically, the Eagles could have elevated him for one more game, but special teams coordinator Michael Clay said it made too much sense not to go with him.
Having the familiarity with Covey, obviously, probably people are going to allude to, put one on the ground against Minnesota, but it's one of those things where we never want to have the ball on the ground, but we still have full confidence in Covey to do that. I actually just spent probably an hour and we watched every return that he's had here, and just talk about different situations. Went around a group and everything like that. So just having the confidence in Covey to do it, he still could gash you for a few yards. You saw in the New England game he had that 25-yard return. So he still can be a very people do have to worry about him back there. So it's always nice having Covey. He's a little on the quirky side with his personality, but he's great for the team.
I'm sorry, remember the whole continually improving conversation we just had? I don't know, it just seems like this is an area we're settling on. Although, like Outside the Bird said, the outcome of elevating Covey wasn't expected, so my guess is that Quez Watkins' injury is more serious than we all think. Covey obviously knows the system and was going to be elevated a third and final time anyway. Now they can just use that elevation on Braden Mann and a cornerback. Okay, that's probably where I'm leaning on this whole thing too, since remember, Quez had been dealing with a hamstring injury back at training camp for a few weeks, and then re-aggravated it against Minnesota, where I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but hamstrings seem to take forever to get right. Hopefully it's not a longer issue, but if it is, that means seeing more of Olamide Zaccheaus and possibly, as we've been referencing, some Britain Covey. Ultimately, I don't think this is a major concern, with Quez only registering 2 catches for 17 yards. So perhaps this ends up helping some of those intermediate targets for Jalen by getting Oz on the field to exploit the zone and create mismatches. At the same time, it's never good to lose a piece in a passing game, especially on one that struggled. But even with these challenges, Nick Sirianni isn't concerned, saying we're not in a panic mode or anything like that. Have the pass numbers been down? Yeah. Does the defense play into that? Of course it does. Fortunately for us, and not everybody has this luxury, but fortunately for us, we're able to win on the ground and we're able to win in the air. Alright, that's true, yet I don't just love seeing the Birds ranked third to last in passing yards. Yes, I realize some bad weather in New England can affect things, although come on, Mac Jones threw for over 300 yards. However, maybe I'm getting carried away, as sometimes I can overreact, so I really do think we'll be alright, but that passing game better be better on Monday, especially considering that the Bucs have been impenetrable on run defense, allowing just 54 yards per game, which, by the way, ranks second behind us, just in case you were curious, and is no doubt one of the best matchups I'm looking forward to seeing, so Jalen's gonna have to be on his A game. Thankfully though, one Jalen already has been, as Jalen Carter is the highest graded rookie through 2 weeks in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. And the Breadman was recently compared to Eagles legend Jerome Brown, with former Eagles linebacker Seth Joyner saying, he has the abilities of Jerome Brown when I watch him play. In a lot of ways, he looks just like him. The thing about Jerome, he could play all the downs. I mean, he could destroy you in the running game, and he could destroy you rushing the passer against a center or a guard, or a combination of the two. When you watch Jalen Carter play, he's of the same ilk. He can dominate in the run game because he's very good with his hands and his feet. He's just awesome in the pass rush because for a young player, he has counter moves. Alright, not the first time we've heard that comparison, but it's also a little wild that both Jalen Carter and Jerome Brown were selected at pick 9 in the first round. However, that's not the only comparison to a former Eagles legend, as longtime head coach Dick Vermeil said, to me, he reminds me of Reggie White. I don't want to put pressure on him early, but I don't know if he has a limit. If you try to block him one-on-one, it's just a battle you're going to lose.
You lose that battle. You lose that battle 9 times out of 10.
Okay, it's really not fair, as we've seen for guys blocking Jalen, and hopefully Baker Mayfield is meeting the baby rhino early and often on Monday, as well as Haason Reddick, who's registered some pressures, but I think we'd all like to see a bit more production. But luckily, defensive coordinator Sean Desai has a plan for that.
And he's getting there. You know, he's getting around this quarterback, and this is he won't take it this way, but it's a compliment to him that, you know, people are addressing him in terms of chippers and getting people around him, and it's our job and my job and the role I'm in to help him, you know, to get him in some different matchups and different situations and move him around, and we'll continue to be better at that for him.
Okay, now we're talking, because I think all of us, including myself, have wanted to see Reddick lined up in some really unique ways to throw off the opposing team's pass protection. For example, like how Desai used to use stunt schemes to open up lanes for Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn when he was in Chicago. Although let's not discredit the fact that Haason's been playing with his thumb all wrapped up, so maybe that's taking some getting used to. Fortunately, Jordan Davis and Josh Sweat have been dominant too, but once Reddick's also in full swing, that's going to make it that much scarier. So curious to see what kind of new looks we'll see against the Bucs. One thing's for certain, it won't be like playing the Bears, where last week, quarterback Justin Fields went 16 for 29 with 211 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions, missing a wide open touchdown as well as throwing a very embarrassing game-clinching pick 6 to the Bucs. And sure, everyone has rough games, except remember when a bunch of people were saying Justin Fields is better than Jalen Hurts? Well, let's just say Jalen Hurts would never throw his coach under the bus.
When you say thinking less, what do you think was causing you to think so much, maybe think too much?
You know, could be, coaching, I think. But, you know, at the end of the day, it makes it, you know, they're doing their job when they're giving me, you know, what to look at and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I, you know, can't be thinking about that when the game comes. I prepare myself throughout the week, and then when the game comes, it's, you know, it's time to play free at that point. So, you know, just thinking less and, playing more.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's not a good look. As Brett may have summarized it best, saying, "It is deeply annoying that my coach wants me to evolve and work on my weaknesses and understand defenses better." Justin Fields, maybe. All right, that's probably overkill, and I still feel like the Bears aren't putting Fields in the best situations yet. Say what you will about Fields and the Hurts comparisons, but Jalen's 10 times a better leader. I mean, Fields did come back, though, and at least say it's on him. He's not blaming his coaches, but still not the best look. Plus, if we look at Jalen, who is struggling, there are 9 quarterbacks who have a completion percentage above 70, and 7 QBs have an average target depth over 9 yards, but only 1 quarterback has both in Jalen Hurts. So good to know that his struggle can be somewhere in the top of the league. At the same time, I know I'm not going crazy with it because we do need to see more, but curious to know how you guys feel about all this, and I just want to say I really appreciate all the support from you guys, so be on the lookout for another giveaway coming soon. This has been the Philly Special.